Yo, what's going on, guys? A little while ago, I was sponsored by Ash Echoes to talk about their brand new game. So I've been playing it for a minute and I wanted to tell you guys all about it. So that way, maybe you guys can try out a brand new game and see if it's kind of your style. Now, one thing I do have to preface this with is I actually had been playing this for a minute on sort of like creator early access thing so we can make sponsored videos. I was playing on an account and I actually lost the login to the account. So I had to start fresh on a new one, so I don't have everything unlocked that I did before, but I should still be able to talk about it with you guys just so that way you guys know what's up. So what is Ash Echoes? Ash Echoes is a real-time sci-fi tactical RPG where you have a grid-based system and sort of live overhead view combat with lots of different options for each of the characters that you're going to be playing and a full roster of characters that you're playing at the same time. And honestly, guys, the best way is to just show you. So, all right, so here we are in game, and I'm actually covering up one of the characters. I'll just move my camera so you can see. So there's a total of 6 characters on screen. You have 4 characters on field, and then you have 2 characters that are sort of backups. Now, as you can see, we're on this sort of grid, right? And you have some enemies here, the little boom boxes with arms and gowns, you know, just normal game things. So essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to protect this from being destroyed, this little module here. We can move our characters around anywhere on this sort of grid system, and using this we can kind of pre-position them any ways we want to that we think would be safe. If you have tankier characters, maybe putting them closer to the enemies will buy you more time for your ranged characters so they don't have to worry about taking any sort of damage from cleaves and things like that. But also throughout this fight, more enemies will spawn. So I'm just gonna play this in the default position, and it's actually on autoplay right now. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off, turn it to regular speed. So we're gonna defeat all these enemies right here. As you'll notice, the portraits of our characters are sort of glowing, right? That means that they have something you can activate. I'm gonna go ahead and use AoE attack here, which is just going to be a sort of slash and a line AoE. And what you can do is actually reposition the character for this attack. So we're gonna reposition here, and then you can go ahead and aim and target. And this is also, I mean, this is on mobile too. I'm just playing on PC and I'm using my mouse and keyboard. And we're gonna basically just do this. We're gonna use this attack and we're gonna cleave through all the enemies. So we're gonna maximize the damage that we can actually get out of this. So boom, we did some extra damage there. And same deal with her. We can do an AoE attack as well, and we can cleave as many enemies as possible. Moving the character around is like a super nice touch, in my opinion. I really like that you can sort of move characters. So let's go ahead and just use this. Slash through them. And then here you have like a really cool animation. So we're gonna go and use her summon ability. We're gonna go ahead and summon some drones. And on Su Xiao, this character that we're targeting right now, we also have a barrier. I'm gonna go and just use AoE attack again. I try to get rid of some of these enemies. You'll notice that this guy is a barrier, so it might make it a little bit tougher, but it is what it is. So you also have these sort of terminal skills that you can activate during combat. Like we have a jammer that destroys projectiles. And then we have one that makes it so drones attack and HP also get terminal stats. So might as well use them. They're extra damage, extra buffs. All right, so now we're on Mo Hongshu. We're gonna go ahead and use her barrier, and we're gonna push up on these guys. And you get these sort of animations, and then you try to push up and put a wall there. There is this sort of like wall building element to it where certain characters can end up just like building spaces to protect you. We gotta get rid of that shield, so we're gonna go ahead and use that skill, and then we're gonna actually reposition her, move her over here where it's a little bit safer because she's kind of in the front lines. Summon more drones. We're gonna summon the drones over here by more of the enemies, and that should help us dish out a fair bit more damage. Now we also have this thing that's like it's a gather ability, right? So what it's gonna do is bring everyone together. And this is just kind of how the combat goes. Now you have these like special abilities that you can activate once you have enough energy. Like this one, for example, is gonna hit all of these enemies in a large conal AoE. So boom, taking them out, doing a ton of damage all at once. And then obviously we can use our regular abilities as well. So that's kind of nice. There are hotkeys for all this, but clicking helps me organize my thoughts better. Now we can use this AoE attack straight down the middle. We're gonna take a super lethal picture. And look at this animation. It's really cute. It's really pretty too. I'm a big fan. So we're gonna bomb them. To do a ton of damage, and there you go. So that is it for the first zone, and then you have to move to the next zone as well. So you can go ahead and like click and drag your characters, or you can just click to move them. And this will move us in our terminal to the next area where the next grid battle starts. Now, some missions are shorter and only have one battle. Some are longer. This is Phantasm Realm 2 of 2 because we're on the second one. Now, this game also has auto battle and double speed. So if you just kind of want to play through without having to be full focus on the game outside of maybe like the story, you can totally do that as well. But it's sort of this like mix of auto battler RPG with some manual stuff you can do to really optimize, because especially when you get to higher level missions, you're gonna really struggle to just auto everything unless you're super geared and kitted out. And there's even gonna be things at the end of the game where it's like no amount of gear can really do it for you. If you're free to play, you're gonna have to manually do some of it. And even for whales, there is content that's gonna make that difficult. Now, if you hit auto battle like I am, it's possible you could just die, right? You could legitimately just die. And this is the thing that happens a lot, which is why manually battling is going to be better like a majority of the time, right? Because you can be so much pickier about the abilities that you use. But by the same token, and with that said, having better gear will help you out a lot more. So that's essentially the combat loop, is that you have this sort of grid system. You can reposition your characters, and actually during boss fights even, repositioning your characters can be super useful, because if you have an enemy that's casting an AoE and they have like a line that shows in front of you where they're gonna hit, you can quickly reposition your character to make them not take that damage, which adds this bit of interactivity to the boss fights that I think is really good. But to give you more of an idea of what Ash Echoes is about, and a little bit about the gearing systems that I mentioned before, it doesn't work like any other game that I've played. There are similarities between systems, but this isn't a game where you just go grind an artifact domain, or you don't have to just gacha for all the gear. It's gear that you unlock through playing the game, but it's actually kind of fun. So if you get down to the bottom left, my camera is covering it up, you can click on Echomancers, and this is gonna show you all of your characters that you have, right? So these are all the Echomancers I have on my account. And keep in mind, this was my second attempt at this because I lost the login to the first one. If we look at Mohongshu, she's a tank control elemental zoning character, and she is fire, which is pretty dang cool. Now, there are sort of reactions that you can proc in this game. I'm not gonna lie, the AI are not smart enough to do that on their own. But for example, it even shows an example here. You can create a fire zone, and when you use a water element inside a fire zone, or if you have a water zone, you use a fire element, it triggers vaporized, and when you're in vaporized, you take less damage. When an enemy's in a fire zone and they take lightning damage, it triggers an explosion. So there are sort of elemental reactions. Elements are important in this game. But you'll notice that on Mohongshu, I don't have like a regular level for the character. You do have Ascension, which is a sort of way to level up, right? And we can ascend to S1, but it's actually more tied to our officer level, and your officer level is actually just your account level, essentially. So all of your characters are capped by your account level, and it's not like I'm level 1, so this max is at level 1. Every few officer levels, it will allow you to actually ascend even more. You'll also notice there's no real like gear on them. So there's a reason for that, and I'm gonna get into it in just a second. But you do have skills to level up. You do wanna level up your skills over time. And then if you're wondering, seed is where you have multiple copies of characters. Now, something you might not notice if you are newer to the game is that you actually get new traits when you get your first and third copy of the character. You get traits on 4 and 5 as well, but they're just sort of levels up on most characters. 1 and 3 are gonna be the important ones because it gives you a new trait that affects how the character actually plays and makes them massively more powerful by comparison. So getting a first copy of a character can always be a good thing. If you ever get a duplicate and it's just one duplicate, don't worry. That's like usually one of the better power spikes of the copies of the character. But where do they actually get their stats from? Well, it's really interesting. So if we look down here, we have memory traces and we have tactical engravings. Now, memory traces are essentially, you can think of them similar to a weapon, but it's not quite that. Your memory engravings actually affect what abilities and stats you can unlock for the characters that you bring. So I think the best way to go over this is the Nexus. So I'm just gonna kind of show you guys. Click on the Nexus screen. You can basically pick a character and go into the Nexus. And every time you clear a stage, it's going to give you some sort of buff. Now, depending on the engraving that you have, you can actually pick one of these to increase, and that'll apply it to that engraving. For example, if I wanted to get more attack on my Echomancers, I would pick this one. It would apply it to that engraving, and then you can choose a stat increase as well. All right, so we can go to skill platform or stat platform. We're gonna go skill platform. Gonna go forward, and we're gonna go ahead and just defeat all these guys. Danger zone, it's gonna start a challenge. And now we can choose more Echomancers. So when you get to like challenge modes, then you can sort of pick more Echomancers. If you're confused on which Echomancers to actually pick, you can always just hit quick setup. This is what I did at the beginning of the game, and I found it to be just, it's fine, right? Because it just quickly picks characters that it thinks are suited for the mission. So you can go and just hit quick setup. If you really know what you're doing, then obviously you want to set up things on your own, but we're so early in the game, it doesn't really matter. So if you're ever confused on how to play this, you can always quick setup, and that's fine. All right, so they have a water zone, right? So we're gonna try to vaporize that. All right, so we're gonna run through them here. And now we've created a vaporized zone, so now we take reduced damage, which is gonna be super helpful overall. More enemies are gonna spawn in, and sometimes you'll just wipe out enemies faster than they can even spawn. I think it's funny. In a weird way, this is almost like a more mobile tower defense game, because like you just have like the one sort of zone you don't want them to get to, but you're not building towers. You kind of just have characters that you're playing and trying to position in a very specific way. And then once you clear that zone, you can go forward, interact, and you can obtain a skill. And then we can pick up this skill, 16% increased damage to enemy units with an empty block gauge. And this is because of this specific memory trace, codenamed Diversity. And now we can awaken other traces on there as well. So we can either activate Barrier Fire, or we can activate Volley Fire. I'm gonna go ahead and get Barrier Fire, and there's that. We can get some more skill stuff as well. And then again, you can go ahead and pick stats to sort of engrave onto your memory traces. So we're gonna go ahead and take the attack one again, just to show you an example, get some skills, and then we're gonna go ahead and save and exit just so that way I can show you the rest of the game. So now if we go and look at memory traces, right? We now have seize the opportunity for codename Diversity, which is this specific memory trace. These are all abilities that you can unlock in the Nexus. Essentially, to upgrade your characters and increase their power, you have to go play a roguelike game mode. And in the roguelike game mode, you get buffs that you can apply to your memory traces. And after applying those to your memory traces, you can either take them back into the Nexus, which will allow you to buff your characters that are in there, or you can apply them to your leader specific character or your director. Now, if you apply them to your director, everyone on your team is getting that. The thing is, whatever traces you may have activated only matter if they are applied to the leader. And the leader right now is director. And you can go and adjust the engravings that you actually have and the main traces that you have. So if I don't like the stat bonuses that I have on this, I could go ahead and swap with something else. Like I could go swap to this one. And I don't have any memory traces a high enough level to do this, so it's gonna constantly complain about that. But, if I want to use filing instead of Wish in the Rain, they can pop that in, and everyone on the team is getting filing instead of Wish in the Rain. Eventually you unlock sub traces as well, but that's a whole complicated thing that you probably won't get into until you've been playing for a minute, and that would be a completely other video. But as you can see, we give stat bonuses to our entire team based on the engravings that we have. And if you don't know what you're doing, go ahead and hit quick setup. You can either choose Echomancers that are compatible with the current engraving skills, or you can go ahead and pick stage-based buffs. So we're gonna go ahead and do this. And another cool thing that I just found out is that you can play the piano. Now, one thing you actually can do is level up your memory traces. Echomancers, you're just going to be sort of ascending them and leveling up their skills, right? But here you can specifically level up the memory traces. So if you have any like super good ones that you want to level up and invest in more, you can totally do that. Like this one here is level 1, and if we want to upgrade it, we need to start applying some of these materials. So I'm gonna go max it out. That brings us to level 11. But let's say I want to go to level 20 real quick. One thing I do really like about this is that it'll instantly just take you directly to where you would farm it. And then if you've beaten the mission, you can actually hit quick battle, which lets you just auto play through it and get the rewards out of it, which is super nice. It's like, it makes farming so much easier because we all know you have 50,000 mobile games that you need to be playing every single day now. So games that respect your time, good from me. I like that a lot. What's also in the field ops is going to be some other game modes. Now, I don't have these unlocked because I mentioned before, I lost the account that I was progressing on before I could actually make the video because I was trying to learn more about the game. But to be fair, a lot of this stuff gets into like min-maxing if you really want to challenge yourself or go for like different types of content that may, make you scratch your brain a little bit more. These will be worth your time later. If you want to watch like a guide for those, this isn't the video for that. But there are plenty of great gacha creators out there who are making videos on that. But going along the bottom menu here, next up is Spirit Dive. Now, Spirit Dive is the gacha system, and it's kind of the last main thing I want to talk to you guys about because I think it's done pretty well as far as gacha games go. First off, you have your sort of targeted banners that you can go ahead and like go for specific rate up characters. And right now, the rate up characters are Senying and Laurel. Now they do go up to 6 stars in this game. So it goes past 5 stars. It's not only gonna be 5 stars. You might get a 5-star and be like, oh my gosh, that's super good. And I mean, it is, don't get me wrong, but that's not like what you're looking for, right? You're looking for the 6 stars, and they have a lot of characters in the game already that can be like super good for you. So here we have 11 6-star Echomancers, and then we have a ton of 5 stars SRs, and then we have some 4 stars as well. So just to give you an idea of like what some of these characters look like. I'm gonna go ahead and just show you some of their designs and stuff. I think they're pretty neat designs for a lot of these characters. You can see where a lot of the inspiration is from. They also are not afraid to make animal characters, which, like, if that's your thing, that's great, because there's a lot of games that are afraid to make animal characters or go all in on them. Some of my personal favorites, I like Gina a lot for no reason in particular. No reason at all, guys. Begonia, I like her for no reason in particular either. And Velia is super cute, dude. Look at this. This is adorable. It's actually adorable. We stand the giant ferret, or whatever that is. Does it say? Oh, well, that doesn't matter. It's cute as hell. So one thing that is interesting to note, and I'll go ahead and move my camera so you guys can see this. So down here, it says 101 out of 300 select reward. Once you get to 300, you can go ahead and just pick an Echomancer, which is gonna be super nice. Same thing applies to memory traces. And the same thing applies to the standard Echomancer banner as well. They also have a 10 pull Echomancer guarantee that you can do, which is kind of nice. It's one time only, but you can do that to guarantee a 6-star. And then you have your memory trace banners as well. So the memory traces are going to, as I mentioned before, directly affect these skills that you can actually pick up and add to your Echomancers. So rather than you're farming for like artifact or relic sets, you basically go in here, you grab a memory trace and you apply specific skills that you want to it and get certain buffs in the Nexus. And then you can run that with certain characters or not. It's an interesting way to do gear for sure. And other than that, there's just a couple more things I want to show you guys. It obviously has all the same live service gimmicks that you have, but there's also some bonuses sort of similar to what other gacha games provide in terms of just giving you like a way and a reason to progress and specific things to shoot for. So by completing things in your field ops guide, you'll get rewards. And phase quests, in my opinion, are the most important thing, because phase quests will just give you consistent experience and some consistent rewards. But once you get to phase 6, which is what you're sort of aiming for, you'll get a guaranteed random 6-star Echomancer. So by doing these phase quests, you will get a better unit, guaranteed, which is nice. You have dailies, weeklies, normal gacha game stuff. So overall, what do I think about Ash Echoes? Well, Ash Echoes it's an interesting game for me because it's not the same thing that I normally would play. You see me do a lot more like turn-based stuff than overhead grid view type games, but I've played some similar to it before. And I think that there's definitely like an audience for this game. I think for me personally, this game is more of a side game for me, but it respects my time, which means that I can actually play it on the side, which I think is a good thing. And the character designs I think are actually pretty neat. Like I really like a lot of the characters that they put into the game. Like even her on screen, I think she's pretty neat. Zodivin Azure, which I think is funny that her last name is Azure because it's just covered in green. But I think she's a cool concept for a character, you know? The gearing is super interesting. Oh, and also I guess another thing you can do on your menu is you can switch between 2D and 3D menus. So like if you don't want all that movement, all those 3D characters on your screen, you could just go 2D. Frick it, guys, just go 2D, why not? And you can go ahead and change it based on the memory traces that you have unlocked. But anyways, guys, Ash Echoes, pretty fun game. If you guys want to try it out, make sure to click the link down below in the description. Since the game just launched, you get a ton of rewards, and they have all of these free 6-star Echoes that you guys can get. So don't miss out. Click the link down below, and thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.